STEMPrime Researchcast.
Okay, welcome to the STEMPrime Researchcast. This is the week of June 15th, 2020. This is part 3 of the 4-part series, Thermodynamics and the 3 Functions of Money. And this is, I don't know, a bit of a crunch episode. There's a few things happening. I'll get to those in a second. Okay, first. Okay, I have yet to come up with kind of a global name for all of these projects together. Not that it really needs a name, but it would be nice to just be able to refer to blah, blah, right? And have you know what I'm talking about. But, so yeah, as of yet, this unnamed project aggregation, which is composed of the STEMPrime Researchcast, the AI STEM Drive, the STEM Economy, the TerraPrime and STEMPrime simulations, all of which are fully self-funded by Phobos Technologies. They're all Phobos Tech projects. So, due to the nature of this project and just the insane amount of just how meticulous this has to be, and how, error-free this has to be, and just void of bias, right? I've kind of come up with a little term, all right, I like to use recently. I call it the no pass directive, PASS, which means no placements, ads, spots, or sponsors. So, the STEMPrime unnamed STEM-ish project, right, is a no-pass project. You can find everything there is to know or find about the Researchcast or the AI STEM Drive at stemdrive.ai. I'm also in the process of getting this, you guys will see it at some point, it's just STEMPrime, right, with the dot before the ME. So stempri.me, that is going to be the new URL for the STEMPrime Researchcast specifically. That way I can kind of separate the actual AI STEM Drive project itself from the Researchcast and the research efforts. This can make things a lot easier as far as how I present it to the public, to you guys, where you guys go to know what, that kind of a thing. Okay, new listeners, as always, I highly advise that you go back and listen to the first, listen to all the episodes in order. Granted, and the first few episodes, I still have a wonky relationship with the camera. It took me a few episodes to kind of figure out how to present myself and work with the camera and talk to the camera. So just know it's probably going to be a little hard to listen to for an episode or two, but it gets better. I get better, I promise. Things tend to work themselves out in that sort of way, don't they? Okay. So the series is each episode is predicated on previous concepts. So, you can jump into an episode if you would like to and watch it, but, I almost can guarantee you that I'm going to be referencing certain ideas and topics that are going to be, you're just not going to know what I'm talking about unless you go back and check out some of the, listen to all of the episodes. And I guess that's kind of the nature of taking a research project and taking it to this sort of level of transparency. The AI STEM Drive, the STEMPrime Researchcast is an exercise in research transparency. So this isn't a podcast that should be, I'm trying to make it as entertaining as possible, but it's not something that you're going to just want to, dip into whatever episode at any time and have a good time. You're going to want to know what's happening and what's going on and follow the research and follow me and know what I'm talking about to really have a good grasp on what exactly is going on. Okay, all right, announcements. I've got actually a couple announcements this time around. First announcement is just a reminder of the contest. Go back. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can check out, either go to any of the podcast platforms that we're on, or YouTube or wherever. All of the podcast platforms are listed below, so you can go there, click into any of the feeds, and a couple episodes back there's a contest rules. Also, the contest rules are currently on stemdrive.ai. I will show you. But as soon as I get STEMPrime up and running, I'm going to move everything over to STEMPrime. Here we go. Okay, so here's the creative language and essay contest for the new post-scarcity. I've got the official rules all posted up here. And there's a video that goes over everything as well. If you'd like to watch that instead, it touches on all the rules. Contest deadline is not for several months, so I would say, you have the time. You have the time to go back if you're interested in this kind of a thing. It's should be pretty cool. Okay. All right. So moving on. Okay, stickers. Yeah, I got some stickers ordered, and I will probably be. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to do this. I hope the glare doesn't hit them, but yeah, we've got just your. Is that glaring? I really can't tell. I'll do it like this. There we go. Maybe. Weird. Okay, so we've got the full color cube, STEMPrime Researchcast. We've got the blue cube. Is that in focus? Maybe I'll just put clips up. Okay, and I've also got this little one. These are, well, this one and this guy right here are in print for t-shirts. So that's getting done right now. But yeah, stickers. I'll probably I'm going to put them up on a shop. If you'd like to support the research effort, you can go and grab some stickers. We're getting the t-shirts ready, so you can go grab the t-shirts as well. I'll let everybody know when that is up and functional. I will also be giving away stickers occasionally, and t-shirts and stuff like that. So, yeah, so that is that. So we covered the URL, okay. Next announcement is that I have completely had to rethink about how I'm going to approach this as a research project. I've been talking to a few guys that have been helping me, and I don't think we're going to move in the direction of a fully automated simulation. I think the best approach, I'm pretty sure the best approach, is to move into the realm of the game like simulations. So yeah, I'm gonna have to do a full restructuring of that and figure out how to move from there. Gratefully, I have a couple of people that are giving me a little bit of input and helping me along. This is a lot of work, you guys. Okay, so yeah, the simulations are going the way of the game. All right, now recently I had a bit of a realization, and this is kind of spawned from the last episode where I just had a really difficult time, getting it out. You may have noticed. And I was just had a really hard time coming up with a good method for explaining the medium of exchange. And after, thinking about it and really considering what it was that I was trying to say and what I was trying to, it bothered me. I had to get an episode up and I was like stumbling over myself. I knew what I was trying to say, but I was just like, could not get it out. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that the roots of that were kind of grounded in a couple of things, actually. And the way I'm going to explain this is through a little bit of an analogy here. Okay, we're going to go back to 8th grade biology class. And I hope this doesn't bother too many of you, but hopefully you remember. And if you don't, then I'll explain it here. But for those of you that were, taught this little hiccup in biological science, I was taught this idea under the phrase embryological parallelism or something like that. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about now is the theory of recapitulation. Okay, it's also known as, like I said, embryological parallelism, although I'm almost sure my textbook called it something else. Parallelism, but I could be wrong. Okay, it's also known as Biogenic Law or Zeroth Law. So let me explain to you. If you don't know what this is, I'll explain it, and then we can go from here, because this is a really good way to kind of convey exactly why this was so difficult for me to kind of figure everything out, and why I'm going to be sort of restructuring this particular length of the STEMPrime episode. So what this is, okay, recapitulation was a theory proposed. I believe it was proposed by Meckel, and then it was actually kind of formalized or put into theoretical practice, I guess, like put into textbooks and stuff by Zeroth. And what this was, if you don't recall, was the idea that the several stages of a human embryo resembled at different points different biological forms that our ancestors went through, from little worm all the way up to humans, right? And wasn't that bad of a theory, right? It kind of made sense, if you look at the different stages of the human embryo. It does seem to represent different sorts of animals that we had some relation to, that our ancestors were. So this is how we're gonna break this down. Now let's assume that this particular idea was never disproved, that nobody ever went out of their way to formulate alternate hypotheses or try to disprove it or anything like that. We just took it for fact and went with it. Okay. So let's take this to a little bit of a deeper level and consider what may have happened. Like what a logical progression of such a, of taking such a key, something that we know now is so very wrong, but following it through logically, how our world could have turned out, kind of an idea. So one of the things that I thought of was possibly pregnant mothers. You know, the baby Einstein thing, right? The listen to Mozart kind of idea. Instead of, you know, just, by the way, which has no merit. It's just, you should know what I'm talking about though, right? Okay. And just to cover myself here, that has absolutely no merit to it. Now, with that understanding in mind, with people having, you know, continued and perpetuated this belief, let's say we have mothers that have started to decide that, you know, listening, you know, putting headphones on their belly at different stages, their choice of sounds that they feed through the headset is, you know, in direct relation to what stage the embryo is at. So, you know, early fishy kind of looking stages, right? If you play water sounds or, I don't know. You get the idea, right? You break it down into what are the most pleasing sounds for that particular type of animal that we may have come from. And then play that through a headset, right? You can see that being a thing. You know what I mean? Okay, so for instance, that's one way it could have affected our society. Another way is, abortion, let's say. That instead of, you know, having arguments over when you would abort or when it would be morally acceptable, I guess, to go through with an abortion, you would, you know, base that on what particular stage the embryo was at, and, you know, kind of lay your reasoning out on how, I guess, conscious or alive and or how much more human that particular evolutionary step is than the previous step, that kind of a thing. So, like, you wouldn't have a problem killing a fish, you wouldn't have a problem killing a, you know, little tadpole or a frog or whatever, but maybe when you got more into the realm of early primate looking kind of shapes, then maybe you would feel more uncomfortable with performing an abortion or going through with it, and that could be have been, you know, more of a deciding factor. Okay, so you see things like this. All right, okay, roll with me. This is a thought experiment, totally hypothetical, never would really happen. I hope we never regress to a point where that becomes a thing. So this could be one of those things where, you know, a few people question it here and there, but generally everybody accepts it. And now, let's say some guy comes along and launches a YouTube station and builds a whole podcast, right? Calls it a research cast, you know, whatever. And he starts publishing these ideas, and he, you know, his whole basis is that recapitulation is incorrect, and that we should be, you know, considering other reasons for why the embryo looks different ways or whatever. And he starts breaking the videos down, and he does a series, a 4-part series on particularly 3 well-known aspects of recapitulation at that time. And I just totally made these up, had a little fun making them up, you know, putting different words together and playing around. But totally nonsense, okay? So I'm not saying anything legitimate here. This is utter and absolute nonsense, but it was fun to make it. All right, let's say there are 3 obstetric insights. We'll call them the 3 obstetric insights, okay? These are the kind of fundamental, relational aspects of fetal development when looking at it through the eyes of somebody that believes recapitulation, or a culture that believes recapitulation. So let's say the first one is optical morphological delineation. Totally doesn't make any sense. I have no idea what it would even mean, but let's go with it, okay? Digital syndactylitic configuration, web fingers more or less, okay? An assembly of umbilical history. Again, absolutely no meaning to it, but it was fun to come up with it, and whatever. Okay. Now, granted, in this theoretical world that we have, okay, these 3 have everything to do with the ingrained beliefs surrounding recapitulation, but almost absolutely nothing to do with what the actual reality of fetal development is. All right. And so this guy that's publishing these videos and trying to, show everybody that something, there's another way to look at this, decides to do his series on a 3-part series, specifically one episode on each one of these concepts. So obviously he's running into a problem and he doesn't even see it. And the problem is that he's trying to systematically create a relationship between these nonsensical beliefs and the reality of the situation. He's trying to say, this is wrong because blah, 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 blah. This is wrong because blah, 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 blah. This is wrong, blah, 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 right? But he's trying to, tie this in to actual biological development in a way that is just so utterly divorced from, the 2 roads split a long time ago. And you have, the false road is just so far over here, and it's already got a bunch of other branches coming off it, and a bunch of other theories and concepts and properties, right? And then you have this other road, which is where we should have gone, where science should have led. And he's trying to bridge these 2 by using these 3 concepts that are divorced from the reality of the situation by several orders. You have your main issue, okay? You have your main problem, which is recapitulation. And that's where everything went wrong. But these 3 silly functions came off of, other ideas that sprung from recapitulation. And I mean, who knows how many orders of separation there are there. And so these were ideas that were conceived of and tied to recapitulation because of how they saw other things in the world and different biological processes. And so they're trying to, reason and create these ideas that seem to them to be fundamental reasons for recapitulation to be a reasonable, idea to hold to and to, spring other sciences from and to recognize as a very logical and solid foundation for any number of things, right? But he's hitting this road because he's trying to take these ideas that are just totally divorced, not only from the reality of the situation, but from the fictional idea that spawned that idea in the first place. They're way over here. And he's trying to kind of make these logical comparisons as to why this isn't working. Now, I hope it's obvious by now what I'm trying to say here. I took the the concept of the three functions of money, okay, to me, because I've been doing this for so long, I can see the relationship and I see what the problem is and whatever. But where I screwed up was that I was taking thermodynamics and what I already know about money and its relation to thermodynamics. And what am I trying to say here? The three functions of money together, you know, as a property of money, or as a sort of, I guess, property of money that we all view as kind of being central to what money is, how it works, that kind of thing. But I'm trying to connect it to thermodynamics in a way that, you know, one at a time, it's just not a possibility. Like, I was stretching it. I'm trying to stretch connections that I need to come back down to money and make that connection. Once that connection is valid and verified and solid, and I've presented it to you in a way that, you know, is palatable and makes sense and it's not confusing, then we can go and talk about the three separate functions of money and then see, oh, I see why this is like so silly and not making sense. Do you know what I mean? And that's, I think, the sort of the left turn that I made. That was where I screwed up on this. So, all right. Now, just to kind of set the stage here, there is a relationship between the three functions of money and thermodynamics. But I need to set the foundation. I need to kind of build you up to that level, and they're not, the relationships are not separated into the three separate functions of money. That we can't go from the three functions of money to thermodynamics. It's if not impossible, it's an extremely difficult way to do this. So we are going to come from thermodynamics to money, and then to the three functions of money, and then we're going to see what is going on here. That's the best possible course to do this. I don't know if I've said this previously in other episodes, but I tend to like to, it's my wife. Give me 1 second. Okay. So, where was I? Right. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. So, I often say or use the term currency-driven economy, right? I don't know that I've done this in a previous episode, so we're going to shorten that to CDE. So currency-driven economy, when you hear me say CDE, that's what I'm talking about. It's just currency-driven economy is kind of lengthy and unwieldy sometimes. So CDE is much easier. Just letting you know. Have I said currency-driven economy yet? I don't even know if I've used that term yet. I may not have used that term yet. All right. So what I'm going to show you first now is how a currency-driven economy actually flies in the face of thermodynamics. And then we're going to look back and we're going to see why the three functions of money are totally disconnected from the reality of the situation and why that is. All right. So first, let's go back through a quick review of the 4 laws of thermodynamics, and then we're going to go back through a quick review of the 3 functions of money really fast for hopefully the last time here, and then we're going to jump into kind of the meat of what I'm talking about here. Okay, the first law of thermodynamics is basically the idea that any one system's internal energy is equal to energy input minus energy output. It's pretty cut and dry, but there are, a couple of things we can take out of this. This is usually written mathematically as delta U equals Q minus W. So one of the things we can kind of extract from this, right, is that energetic states are relative. So for instance, say you have three systems connected to each other. Okay, system 1 is connected to system 2, and system 2 is connected to system 3. And let's take our metric of thermodynamic equilibrium to temperature. So we've got 2000 degrees Kelvin, 2000 degrees Kelvin, and 2000 degrees Kelvin. Well, because they're all 2000 degrees Kelvin, there's no flow, there's no flow of thermal energy from one system to another. They're at total thermal equilibrium. So even though all three of them are at 2000 degrees Kelvin, because this particular law, is basically telling us that energetic, and a system's energetic state is really relative to its surrounding, connected state or systems. Its energetic value really is zero because there's no flow, there's no input or output happening. So it has, it's in total energetic stasis. There's no flow happening. Okay, so it's relative. And to make this point, if you had same three systems, so one's 2000 degrees, one's 500 degrees, and one's 5 degrees, well, the energetic flow is going to obviously come from, the thermal flow is going to come from the system that's 2000 degrees, and it's going to flow fairly quickly and heavily into the system that is at 500. And the system that's sitting at 500 is going to flow quickly and heavily into the system that is, 50? Okay. So there's quite a bit of input and output, for this middle system, which means it's got a lot going on. It's pumping stuff out, it's taking stuff in. So, yeah. If we move on to the second law of thermodynamics, that is the well-known law of entropy. One thing we need to know about entropy is that entropy always increases. That means that systemic disorder is always increasing or multiplying. Or not multiplying, I'm sorry. Disorder is always happening. Things are moving and tending towards disorder. And that is what we were talking about when we were talking about an increase in entropy. Now, one of the sort of indications of this guy, or one of the lessons we can pull out of this, is that entropy does not ever flow backwards. Which means that heat, any kind of, okay, if I have, let's go back to the three states or the three systems, right? I have the 2000 Kelvin state or system, and I have the 500 Kelvin system, right? Energy from the 500 Kelvin system is not going to pour into the 2000 Kelvin system. It simply is not something that happens. So, entropy always increases, and this sort of increase in entropy and in chaos never goes in the reverse order. It's always going in one direction. Okay, third law of thermodynamics is basically states that as you approach 0 degrees Kelvin, and this is when we say approach 0 degrees Kelvin, we're talking about it in the same sort of fashion that we're talking about a limit. You're never actually going to get to 0 degrees Kelvin for several reasons, but theoretically, okay, if you were to get to 0 degrees Kelvin, you would, your material, your particles would have no vibration, they would have no spin, they would have no movement, they would be completely and totally frozen. Zeroth Law of Thermodynamics. Now this is easily equated to the transitive property of equality. The transitive property of equality states that if A equals C and B equals C, then A is equal to B, okay? That is fundamental mathematics right there, right? This also is applicable to thermal equilibrium. So, and that is essentially the Zeroth Law of Thermodynamics. That is what it is saying. That is talking about the fact that if system A at whatever thermal equilibrium is equal to system C thermal equilibrium, or thermal energy level, right? Thermal state, and B is also equal to C, then system A is also equal to system B, thermally, when we're talking about thermal equilibrium. Now, first episode, I claimed that the STEM epiconomy invalidates the 3 functions of money. I stand by that. And I also stated that the STEM drive handles effectively and efficiently the concerns that kind of gave rise to the ideas of the 3 functions of money, and the necessity of money fulfilling those functions, right? That the STEM drive handles those concerns with perfect efficiency and effectiveness. And I also made the claim that the STEM epiconomy as run by the AI STEM drive hits efficiency bedrock. And I also stand by that claim. Yes, it is theoretical at this point, which is the whole reason we're doing this. But insofar as its basic functions exist, it does hit efficiency bedrock. You cannot become more efficient than what is already, mechanically the most efficient you can get, right? And that is how the AI STEM drive is designed, which is why I lay down that claim. But as always, the research will tell. So that's why we were doing this. All right. So we've already established the imaginary, property, just the imaginary nature of the CDE, the currency-driven economy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, right? Episodes 1, 2, 3, 4. They all go over some aspect of why it is. I think episode one or two, I think it's 1, where I actually start talking about idiophysical dynamism and idiophysical coupling and what that means. But that's what we're talking about here, basically. And this isn't just nonsense, right? We have philosophers and economists throughout history that lay out the same claims. So I'm not trying to make any sort of crazy claim here or anything, Economists and philosophers all the way back to the earliest writings we have lay claim to the fact that money and value are imaginary, right? There is no real substance there other than what we believe there to be and act accordingly. That's the fact of the matter. Okay, so let's turn this into a more visual argument. Okay, now money in relationship to thermodynamics. Okay. And see, this is where gets a little tricky, because it weaves in and out. And this is why I was having such a hard time. But if we talk about it all together, this is going to be much easier. Okay. We have a medium of exchange, right? Which means we have basically all agreed that this is the format that we are going to use to represent some conjured up value, some idea of what value is. So let's use apples all the way through this, because apples are always used. Everybody always uses apples, and they're easy. And I love apples. Apples are so delicious, especially Honey Crisps. I cannot eat enough of the Honey Crisp apples. Okay. So, let's see if I get this. Finally nail this one. Nail it. All right. Now, in the first episode, the first installment of episode 6, if you go back, I talk about, all right, if you go back to the first episode the first installment of episode 6, right? I talk about what value is and the problem with what value is. And how could we possibly break this thing down in a way that it's quantitative and anchored in reality. And if you remember, if you haven't seen it yet, I'll just kind of quickly try to go over this here. But if you remember, I talked about the need to sort of, basically flag anyone's system or material or, concept or whatever as first having some value for us. The example I used was photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a sequence of it's a system, right? It's several things happening, and they all happen in sequential order. But photosynthesis eventually, gives rise to things that we use. We take oxygen. It cleans carbon dioxide from the atmosphere for us. It gives us sucrose, right? Sugars in our plants, which our bodies convert into ATP and all manner of fun stuff. So there is a quantitative, there's something we can quantify there. It's there. But we just haven't done it. With materials, you can, break it down into weight and utility, right? So value, as we currently use it, my argument that I used was that value is directly relational to, value is directly relational to sentiment. And I covered all those arguments, right? So we're just going to talk about that for a second. If value is directly relational to sentiment, be it, whatever the emotion or feeling or sensation or whatever happens to be, it is the, metric by which it's not really a metric. It's the whatever that we use to attribute value to things. There are arguments for utility and that sort of things. I dismiss those as being credible arguments, because no matter what the utility is or what the function is or any other way you can try to say that we use to attribute value to any one thing, it can always still, no matter what, be broken down to sentiment. And that's a huge problem, because sentiment is ethereal. It only exists up here. It is completely a non-substantive or non-substantial thing. It doesn't even exist. It is inside our minds. So, and that is problematic. Yes, it is. Especially if we're going to try to torque this thing down and turn this into a more functional sort of system. Make this into something that actually makes sense. And which will alleviate a lot of the problems. Or if you remember from episode 1, I talk about money being, the low has a very low idiophysical coupling. And that's because everything is sentiment. We've established that, right? Everything is totally based on how it makes us feel. That is what value is. But basing value on that is problematic, because that is the nature of the low idiophysicality of money. And the low idiophysicality of money is what makes it so easy to abuse. And the abuse of money is why we have so many problems in our world directly connected to money. Okay. All right. Now we have a kind of foundation here, right? Okay. Now let's go through let's go through the thermodynamics. Now, each function of money has quite a bit to do with more than one of the laws of thermodynamics. Unit of account, however, kind of doesn't. It's kind of in the middle, and we're going to see why in a second. So medium of exchange is sort of our gateway from the logical into the illogical. What I mean by that is, because medium of exchange should be based on value, and value should be based on something substantial, but it's not. Okay, so that's kind of where the connection is between the three functions of money and thermodynamics. Okay, so first problem is right there. Okay, medium of exchange is based on the idea of exchanging, something that has value for any number of things, but we don't have anything quantitative to like support that with. It's just all sentiment, right? Okay, so problem number one with medium of exchange is that there is no medium of exchange, like no actual foundation for a medium of exchange. It's all totally sentimental. Okay, so right there, that is the first and biggest problem. Now, unit of account is now we're divorced from reality totally. Now we're just living in kind of this world of the three functions of money, or the three reasons that we, the three main, I guess, cherished ideas that we've attributed to money in hopes that it will function accordingly. Okay, so unit of account really has anything to do with anything. All that means is that now you have a way to, mark things off and tick as you go. We've got a way to add and subtract and, figure what's missing and who owes who owes who what. Okay, that's unit of account. There's really no basis in, there's just no connection from reality and money. You know, unit of account is like at least two orders of bad ideas away from reality. All right. And the store of value is the idea that we can take our apples, go sell them, okay? And then somebody gives us the money and we can take that, you know, stack of money, because we just sold off all the apples we grew in our orchard, and stick it in our cupboard and come back at, you know, whatever given time, 2-3 years later, pull it out, and that money still should be worth relatively the same amount that it was when we put it in the cupboard. But here's the thing, okay, thermodynamics, we know that entropy is always on the rise. Entropy increases, right? Well, that bushel of apples, if I would have just put it into the cupboard as is and come back 2 or 3, oh, dear God, what would that look like? I don't even know. 2 or 3 years later and open the cupboard, it would probably be a bunch of gross little dried up balls. I don't know. It would have gone through a rot stage, right? Where all just gross and like turned into mush. So it would probably be like kind of like a thick sheet of dried gross stuff with mold still kind of growing on it or something. It would be disgusting. Okay. Well, that's what they think. That's what the hope is that you can store your value. But here's the problem with this idea, right? You're in this fantasy realm. And not only are you in this kind of sort of fantasy realm, because everything about money is based on value, which is based on sentiment, right? Not only do you have this fantasy realm that makes no sense, but we're using real energy to sustain it. We are using real material to sustain it, real energy, real work, real everything to sustain this thing. And just because you use something real to sustain something does not make it like a valid system to sustain. For instance, throughout history, there have been cults that have, you know, risen and fallen, right? And some of them have ended in terrible and tragic ways. Like, and I'm not going to get off on that tangent, but what I'm saying is everybody that is alive, okay, knows that, what's his face, Jones, right? And I can't remember all their names, but these cult leaders, their ideas and philosophies were just bad and wrong and terrible and harmful. But it still took energy and material and substance and, you know, time and work to sustain that system, even though it wasn't real, even though it was like just some fantasy being played out by a bunch of, you know, sadly mentally disturbed people. So we've got this system that we're just keeping afloat, and we are pouring so much money and energy into this thing. It's just going. Well, if we go back and look at store of value, okay, we're missing the boat. We're missing the boat, because while this thing is going up here, we have, okay, when we accept the money and the apples begin to rot, just because we accepted the money does not mean that entropy is still not working. It is still working, even, in fact, on the money itself. The money itself is deteriorating slowly, not as fast as the apples are, that's for sure, but it is deteriorating. And just because you exchange it for some paper goods does not in any way mean that that's not still happening. So, sustaining Okay, and here's one of the biggest problems with sustaining this money system, sustaining the money and relying on the three functions of money. Okay, there's actually a couple of big points I want to bring up here. Let's see, which one do I want to do first? Let's do... Okay, yeah, I know which one. We're going to do the psychological divorce. Just because, okay, well, no. By having this system happening, okay, by having the system churning about, doing its thing, and everybody's looking at money. Nobody's looking at the natural flow. Nobody's watching entropy happen. Nobody's watching the issues with, with missing different, actionable intersections of the flow of entropy. Okay, nobody's watching this energetic flow happening. So, because everybody's looking at money, we're divorcing ourselves mentally from the natural entropic flow, and that has a couple of consequences. And these aren't like theoretical consequences. These aren't consequences. I'm just trying to fit into this. These are consequences that actually happen, that you cannot say don't happen. Okay. So the first problem with the idea of store of value, not that they're numbered or anything, the first problem I'm telling you about with store of value is that it's divorcing us mentally from the natural entropic flow. And this in turn has actually a couple of side effects that most people aren't even aware of. The first one is that because everybody is focused on the money and watching the money and paying attention to the money as the source of value, as the source of where where valuation comes from, the source of energy, the source of food, the source of products, and the source of living well. All right, because we're looking at money for that. We're not watching the natural flow of energy. We are not being cognizant of that. We are, substituting that particular, corner of focus and concentration and mental capacity with money instead of watching reality, watching how entropy is coming into our lives and going, affecting everything in our lives, and how energy enters our systems. And what happens is, because of that, we have a false sense of security. We are looking at something that we believe is stable, when in actuality is one of the most unstable things. And not only does it have no stability, okay, it is volatile and it's imaginary. It's just purely nonsense. It is something we just have made up. So because we're keeping our eyes on this imaginary thing and rooting our stability in that, we have gained a false sense of security. And as we are watching something that we think is a store of value, that we think is stable and remain, entropy is continuing to do its thing. Entropy continues to flow through everything and out everything, and everything is continuing to, its entropy increases and energy is continuing to come in and go out. And what that is doing to us is we are not a part of the, we are not being concerned with making use of what is coming, with being cognizant of the flow of energy that's coming and going, is coming and going. And so because of this, we are actually wasting a lot of the energy we could be gathering. and it's just going by. And so, one, it increases waste, and not just by a little, like it increases waste to a dramatic level. And in relationship to that, efficiency is also not well regulated. We are not being efficient with what is coming our way and what is, being given, the sun is giving us, and what chemical energy is giving us, and what, all the, nuclear energy. We're not really in tune with that. So then again, we are not being efficient with how we are using it. And that also, contributes to the waste. So, waste is, oh dear God, increased. Efficiency and effectiveness are both negatively impacted by the fact that we are looking at money for stability, and we are not paying attention to what is actually happening in the world around us. Okay, so that's the first and kind of biggest one there. Okay, how's it going? A bit close this time. I've got a quick insert I need to make. I've actually got a few, not your usual sort of thing that I do, but yeah. Quick note on the argument against, the three functions of money, specifically store of value. I forgot to mention this. It totally slipped my mind, and for some reason I didn't have it typed up in the episode outline. But this is another fairly large argument against the entire concept of store of value specifically. So let me pull these headphones off. So here's the gig. Store of value, the idea, right? The idea in this kind of pretend little universe of valuation that we have is that you have this mechanism that keeps something from deteriorating. That's what it comes down to, correct? Well, have we not almost completely solved that materially? Even energetically. So here's the thing. We have refrigerators, we have freezers, we have numerous different methods of preserving materials. And if even if the currency-driven sort of valuation system that we have in place, even if that was actually connected into reality, the concept of store of value, the whole reason for that being there, the argument itself would almost, in today's day and age, be totally null and void. And that is because our capacity to innovate and create new things and come up with great ideas for solving different problems is tremendous. And we have done an excellent job at devising new ways for preserving material, even energy, to some level. So yeah, refrigerators, freezers, preservatives, vacuum packing. I don't know. There's any number of them, right? So I just wanted to bring that up, and just kind of drop this in the middle of the episode. At the end, I'm in the middle of editing the episode, so I'm just going to make a couple of. There's going to be another one of these. Be aware. All right. So that's this one. Continue. Okay, that was a interesting little, I don't know. Yeah, had a second there. Had some time away from the camera for a minute. Okay, really quick, wanted to show you something cool before we get back into whatever it was I was going over. I did a logo. This is an AI-driven logo ranking system, right? So it kind of takes all the, I guess not all of the, but what we understand to be some of the major factors in whether or not a logo is a, cool, valid design. So I just wanted to see how the STEM cube came out. So I uploaded the STEM cube, and I got 100 on uniqueness, 91 on legibility, and 100 for color and contrast. So the overall score is 97. Huh? It's not too bad, right? I'm kind of proud of that. So cool. STEM cube did well. That makes me happy. Okay, anyway. I don't know where I'm going. Okay. Where were we? We were going through store value and kind of the reasons why it's so troubling, right? Why this idea of store of value has caused so much damage. We talked about the kind of how medium of exchange is sort of the gateway between reality and the CDE. We talked about unit of account being kind of the method of tracking the pseudo values within the CDE. And we started talking quite a bit about store of value. Where were we? Okay, so we talked about the psychological divorcing that happens when you attempt to, when you kind of instill this idea of store of value in the public's mind, kind of the psychological effects that the fallout from that, that you basically end up with. You're mentally divorced, psychologically divorced from the natural entropic flow, and that in turn causes a lot of waste, a lot of inefficiencies, and ineffective use of material, time, space, and energy. So there were, let's see. Then we have the, what was the other one? Oh, right. Okay, so then we have the psychological distancing that happens because of that. I guess that's the same as, the psychological, being psychologically divorced from that. But what I mean is we're distanced from the true value of what things are. We don't even know what that is. We've been living in a world where valuation has been totally 100% fabricated. I mean, there's no real natural roots that have given rise to valuation on any level, and you have to stop and kind of consider this as a really odd situation that we're in. And so we have no real concept of what a real quantitative breakdown of what value is, what in terms of energetic value, material value, spatial value, anything like that. And so we get this very incorrect idea of what values are. And our mental, idea of what a value is so far from what an actual value is that okay, I guess this is a good way to put it. So we have the psychological divorce, right? That's the big one. That's the one that causes a lot of fallout. And then we have how that psychological divorce. Okay, first, wow. Let me straighten myself out here. Okay, we have the psychological divorce from the reality of the situation, which it's in itself causes, a lot of real harm. Well, the whole thing causes a lot of real harm, but in itself, the fallout, like the end result, the physical issues that follow are the physical waste, the inefficiency in handling material and energy, and the ineffective use of material, energy, space, and time. We have disconnected from it so fully that, in our minds, we're like, okay, it's up on the shelf, it's cool, it's stable, it's in a good place, my value's not going anywhere, it's just kind of like floating over there. Not a big deal. We're good. When in reality, we should be paying so much attention to what is happening in reality. And we just aren't. We have so utterly divorced ourselves from the concept of, from the reality of what is happening, that we do really stupid things. We leave lights on all day long. We waste materials constantly. We have materials that we produce and people just throw them back away. If we were not so utterly divorced from that flow of entropy and from the flow of time and how it all happens and works together, we would not be doing this. And I can guarantee you that the reason why this is a problem is because we have severed that psychological connection with the reality of the situation. However, there is another side of the psychological damage of that distancing that comes from that distancing. And it affects a lot of, so the first thing is the actual physical problems that it brings, the physical fallout and issues that come from that, in terms of how we use materials and energy and space and time. But the more psychological aspect of this, and because we see money as the source of value, the source of food and life and shelter and everything like that, we have built a sort of disassociation that causes other problems. We don't have the capacity to make, legitimate, proper value matches in our mind when we need to. And I kind of wanted to go through a few things. These are notes I'm taking from an econ course. Oh, my back is shot. I'm getting old. That I thought was really interesting. And what's so bizarre is that this is so just almost every single thing that was said. The availability bias is the idea that when we construct a scenario in our minds, when we, paint a picture or, think about something or whatever, when some information is given to us and we kind of formulate an idea or a situation, and the simple act of doing that makes that seem much more realistic. Well, because we have so shut ourselves off from the reality of what is really happening. And remember the whole problem with loosely coupled, is idiophysicality. The tendency and possibility that situations occur where we have painted completely incorrect scenarios in our minds and amped it up to a much more realistic sort of possibility is limitless. I mean, I bet it happens all the time. A, because the availability bias is a thing that happens a lot, right? B, because we have no clue of what the actual valuation, of what the actual quantitative breakdown of what is happening in anyone's system is, that we make these stories up and we have come to believe that they are so real that we act on them as if they're totally natural in, the reality of the situation. And that is the matter of, or, that's just the facts kind of a thing, when it's so completely not. So I bet a good 80% of our value related, sort of biases and ideas and pictures that we construct and stuff are just so completely silly, improbable, ridiculous. So I wanted to kind of go through a couple of these because it was interesting to me thinking about some of these concepts in light of the topics that we're touching on. Okay, ambiguity aversion. Ambiguity aversion is the idea that people just don't like the unknowns. We don't like having something that, we are not sure of, which is probably the entire reason money started in the first place, or the valuation did. We needed a way to trade, right? We needed some method of interacting and trading, our goods and services and cattle and apples and onions and whatever. But we didn't have a real way to break down the, actual values of anything. And so we just kind of filled in the blanks because we have an aversion to ambiguity. It makes me wonder, seriously, just how far off the mark we are. I mean, when we start getting into, real detailed valuations and the simulations are functioning and we can really break things down and look things from a very measured perspective, we are going to laugh our asses off. Probably going to cry too, because it's probably going to be so disturbing and disgusting and frustrating to actually see where we're standing, what we think is the reality and what the actual reality is. It's going to be both completely hilarious and very frustrating for a lot of us to face this. Asymmetric knowledge. do I need to even spell this out for anybody? Asymmetric knowledge is the idea in economics that one party has a much more has beneficial information. Okay, you have party A and party B, right? And they have some sort of an exchange going on, or a deal, or a contract, or insurance, whatever. And party B has information that benefits them but harms party A. Okay. Is this not, I mean, obviously there's no party A that's on the other side. It's simply the universe. It's reality over there. But all right, I'm party B, whatever. But all of that information that we're just totally clueless about is just, it's ravaging us. Just the fact that we don't know what we're doing. The fact that nobody has sat down and tried to figure it out. Ooh, temporal discounting. Okay. Temporal discounting is, dude, it is so crazy. Once you learn some of the stuff, it is nuts to see how just peppered these concepts are throughout everything. So temporal discounting is the idea that what maybe, if that there's a cost for time. Obviously, that's what it means, right? Temporal discounting. But the idea that if somebody said, would you rather have $500 now? Or, no. Would you rather I give you $500 2 years from now? I guess I could have just amped it up and reversed it. Or would you rather I give you, $200, but you can have it now? And that 2 year span has a tendency to have a value to it, to where we are like consciously, estimating, okay, well, in 2 years, is he even going to be around? In 2 years, what can happen between now and the end of those 2 years? And will that money get to me if I say 2 years from now? So basically, oh shoot, where was I going with this? I had a zinger. Gah! Poof. A thought goes poof. What do you do? Okay, crap. Oh my gosh, what was I going to say about that? Oh, I had such a good one too. I got too distracted with explaining what it was. Okay, anyway, moving on. Okay, so this is an insert. Temporal discounting. This was my argument against it. And I just wanted to throw this in really quickly. The problem is that because we have become so divorced from the true, the reality of evaluation, and our temporal discounting is an actual psychological phenomenon, correct? It's something that we really, truly do. We value things, based on its temporal distance from us. And there's a few factors that come into play here. One of them is we don't know what could, I think I already covered this in the video. So I'm just going to get to the point here. So the CDE evaluation system, okay, it has skewed our perception of what value is, of what value should be. And it is not rooted in anything substantial. There's nothing there. So the problem with temporal discounting, or that occurs, or may occur, that I believe would occur, based considering the facts that we have at hand, is that because our valuation perception is so skewed, that our ability to correctly gauge and apply, a sort of mental model of how valuation changes for any one thing over time is out of whack. Is totally and completely out of whack. Who knows how we would perceive different values for different things and different systems if we actually understood the processes and temporal decay on reality. I think we have some sort of intuition for certain things that we have, close contact with, but for a great number of things out there, we're totally blind when it comes to that. And that is directly, we can directly contribute that problem to the fact that we are so utterly divorced from the true value of anything. Well, most things. Okay. Continue. Compensatory decision-making. Heuristic decision-making. I thought I had more thoughts on these than I am capable of retrieving right now. I should have taken notes, but I did not, so I'm sorry. Anyway, whatever. What do you do? You get my point. We've gone over a multitude of abstractions here and different ideas and directions that you can take this. But the fact of the matter is that money being what it is just, it just has messed a lot of stuff up. And I don't know. I don't think we could have gotten to where we are today without money. When I think about it, I don't know. I think there are just too many variables. There's cultural maturation, and there's the, I don't know. You have cultural maturation, and you have, propagating ideas, correct ideas. And then you have the sort of a time, I don't know, the amount of time it takes for a correct idea to propagate throughout a culture and become, instead of the fringe idea, become the generally accepted truth. You have technological, issues and problems with coming to certain truths without achieving certain technological advancements. And I don't know, man. I don't know that it could have happened any other way unless at the very, very get-go, I don't know. I really can't say. What I do know for a fact is that it can be handled in a much more efficient manner with the A-STEM drive. That is not a point to be debated. What the debate is, and what we need to try to figure out, is if STEM theory and the STEM epiconomy, the part of STEM theory that is the STEM epiconomy and the whole psychological aspect of everything, self-actualization and altering motivational foci and shifting them, and that whole aspect, that's the big question mark. appears to be valid. There's no scientific literature out there that stands in the way of STEM theory. As far as what we understand about everything that we know today, STEM theory holds, and it would work. But that is not to say that it will work. You know what I mean? So there is a lot of things that are gonna. Did I mention this before, that I'm almost certain now that we're going to have to probably do more than one research study. I don't think this is something we can handle in one fell swoop. I don't think this is something we can, design one study for and be able to track all the variables and, handle all the nuances for all the different aspects that we're dealing with here, and do that efficiently and effectively. I know of at least 3 particular aspects that need to be studied independently first. So this is going to be so much more work than I thought it was going to be, which is fine by me. I mean, so yeah, I hope that was much clearer than the previous 2 installments of the 6th episode. 6th. I have such a hard time saying things like that. 6th. Is that how people really say that? Is that not proper pronunciation? 6th. Or do you just say 6th? 6th. I don't know. I haven't paid enough attention to other people talking, I guess. Maybe I'm just kind of a dick like that. So, yeah. I hope that makes a lot more sense now. I hope I have colored it a very pretty, ugly color. I hope I've painted that picture for you now in a very vivid sort of sense, as opposed to the previous 2 episodes, which I just approached the whole thing the wrong way. I think the difference between the mess that's happening up here and the sense that it's making inside this little, container for me, and then actually trying to dish it out can sometimes be a staggering, chasm of difference between the 2. So, okay, well, that is it for today. So that is effectively wrapping up the 3rd and 4th installments of episode 6. So please like and subscribe, show your support for the project. If you know anybody that would be interested in helping out, somebody I could talk to, somebody that would want to be interviewed for the Researchcast or solo, off of the Researchcast, I would still write up an account of the interview, or at least, give an account. But yeah, go ahead and share this with friends and family, neighbors, people at your church, people on your soccer team, whatever. if you've been following everything up until now, you know that this is the arguments that I have a very real and solid foundation. The kind of aspect of, the element of question is, does it all work together in this fashion? So please like, subscribe, share, please, because honestly, the success of the STEMPrime Researchcast is totally in your hands. It hinges on really whether or not I'm gaining the support that I need. And maybe that's my fault. Maybe I'm not, maybe it should be somebody else doing this, but I don't have the money to pay for anybody else doing this right now. So, yeah. So in a very real sense, it depends on all of you. It is in your hands, honestly. There's a lot that's in your hands, actually. The feedback, the questions, the comments, the critiques, the new information is, I've said it once, and I have no problem saying it again. We are research partners. All of you and me, everybody that's watching this and following this, you are my personal research partner. We are colleagues. We are working on this together. And I'm about as open of a guy as there can be. If you send me something and you want me to look at something or consider something, or you have an argument or a rebuttal or a critique or a suggestion or a criticism, whatever, I will look at it with the most open mind I can possibly muster. And I will consider it and weave it in. Because, I honestly can't do this by myself. I need you guys a lot. I need you guys. I do. So I think we're just going to wrap this up. Let's see. Yeah. I think that's it. I don't have any more notes. So thank you, everybody, for following and watching and supporting and listening. And thank you for the feedback, the comments, not necessarily on YouTube. YouTube seems to be not the best platform for this show, but several of the other platforms have taken off. I've got to show you guys this, actually. I just posted this. Let me open a Facebook tab. This is you guys. You guys did this. And I'm like dumbstruck at this. So up. Wrong one. Okay. So this is from Podhound. Podhound is a new, you guys can't even see it, can you? Jiggles. Sorry for the jiggles. Podcast is kind of a newish sort of podcast platform Podhound, designed to kind of just help podcasters amp things up, get better traction, that sort of a thing. I just put my RSS feed up on Podhound, and I have not checked it since I started. Dude, look at this. Episode 1, 722 listens, 561 upvotes. 2, 726 listens, 538 upvotes. Episode 3, 398 listens, 625 upvotes. Can you upvote twice on Podhound? I don't even know, but that's like a pretty drastic difference between upvotes and listens. We have 400 basically and six and a quarter, so that's crazy. Episode 4, something similar. We've got 600 listens, 609 listens, and 700 upvotes. So for everybody that is listening to this, I am awestruck and grateful and just I don't know. I don't even know what to say. The only thing I can say is thank you. Like that's I'm speechless. I'm just utterly blown away at this. So make sure to check out the Facebook pages. It's STEMPrime. The username is STEMPrime. The page for the so facebook.com/STEMPrime is the podcast. The actual project, the AI STEM Drive, is facebook.com/STEMdrive. So you have STEMPrime, STEM Drive. All right, STEM Drive is the hardware and the software. STEMPrime is the Researchcast. And there's Twitter, also there's Instagram. Twitter I is sadly flailing behind. I don't think I even have one subscriber or one follower or whatever. Instagram is doing pretty well, actually. Instagram is almost as surprising as this. Instagram, for whatever reason, Instagram has taken off much faster and with greater depth and speed or steepness, I guess, and speed than Facebook. But I can only do one thing at a time, so I can only kind of really work with one platform at a time, and I'm trying to kind of handle everything. So thanks you. So thank you, everybody. You're great. You guys are awesome. So yes, we are going to close this up, wrapping things up. Don't forget about the contest, okay? The essay contest. Coming up with a new word for post-scarcity. And don't forget that there's a Bose sound link revolve in it for you, and a specialized, unique STEMPrime Researchcast jacket in it for that. Get some stickers and t-shirt as well. But first place has got some pretty cool stuff coming. So definitely take a look at the rules. It's on aistemdrive.com. Don't forget that the new website for the STEMPrime Researchcast is STEMPrime with the dot before the ME. So stempri.me. It is half-assy right now, but I'm filling it out. It's getting there. So no, it is not on aistemdrive.com. That is not even a real URL, I don't think. And if it is, then somebody's being a butt. It's on stemdrive.ai. What was I thinking? This episode is more editing than I've done since the first. Okay, bye. Okay, quick note on the contest. I'm updating the rules. I've included some an agreement to relieve YouTube and some of the other platforms of liability. Should anything go wrong, they are not in any way associated with the contest or with Phobos Tech or with the STEM theory projects. The second thing I wanted to make a point of that I've added. That there are a few things actually, but the second big thing is that I have, granted applicants access or permission, I guess, to work in groups if they want to. I can't really divvy up, or duplicate the prizes for everybody in a group if you win. So just keep that in mind. If you work in a group, the prize is the same. You're going to have to figure out how you're going to divvy that up amongst yourselves. And the second thing is that for any one applicant, whether they are a part of, a collective application or a solo application or whatever, you cannot enter more than once at all, period. Even if you enter your own solo application and then enter, an application as a group applicant, that's a no-go. So yeah, any submission at all that you decide to do, if you have an opportunity to join a group or do whatever, make up your mind, decide what you want to do, and just go with it. I'm not going to, I can't. How ridiculous would that be to allow people to, apply and submit more than one submission. So, okay. And that's it on that. Sorry for the 3 interrupts throughout this particular episode, but okay, good. Continue. Have fun. See you guys next time. Bye. And I will see you guys next time. Why did that sound so weird? I'm almost certain I said that correctly. I will see you guys next time. Take care. Be safe. For fuck's sake, it's crazy out there. The coronavirus has spiked again because people are not being careful, and that is just terrifying. So please be safe out there. All right. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Take care. Thank you so much.